Good evening. I think let's just introduce ourselves first. I'm Lunglehlinani.
I am Danda Shavami.
Good evening. My name is Oradile Matibe.
And by the way, I am given Makuwedu.
My name is Khatiso Tego.
Thank you for joining us today, guys. Today we're delving into this critical issue that resonates deeply within our hearts here in South Africa, which is labor exploitation. In industries like mining and agriculture, particularly among immigrant workers and disadvantaged communities, we have this big problem of them getting exploited during labor. Friends, as we gather here today, let us acknowledge the gravity of this situation. Labor exploitation not only violates human rights, but also perpetuates cycles of poverty and inequality. In a country with a history of tumultuousness as ours, we cannot turn a blind eye to the exploitation of vulnerable workers. It's time for businesses to prioritize ethical practices over profit margins. We must instill a culture of respect for human beings. And this must include fair treatment of all facets of our economy. And I'll just give it to our second speaker who will be speaking about the impact on human beings and so forth.
Imagine being a migrant worker far from home, toiling in hazardous conditions for major wages. This is a stark of reality for many in our country. Labor exploitation dehumanizes individuals, stripping them of their dignity and rights. As fellow human beings, we cannot stand idly by while our brothers and sisters suffer. It's imperative that businesses prioritize the well-being of their workers and uphold their rights. From a deontological perspective, we recognize the inherent moral duties and principles guiding our actions. Labor exploitation violates fundamental principles such as the dignity and autonomy of individuals. Thus, it is our duty to respect the rights of our workers and ensure fair treatment, even if it means sacrificing short-term goals. Furthermore, we must address the intersectionality of labor exploitation, acknowledging how it is disappropriately affects marginalized groups such as women and minorities. Gender-based discrimination and unequal pay exacerbate the injustices faced by vulnerable workers, requiring targeted interventions and policy reforms.
Elaborating on the economic implications, labor exploitation not only harms individuals, but also undermines the long-term sustainability of our economy. When workers are exploited, productivity suffers and social unrest ensues. Moreover, South Africa's international reputation is tarnished, deterring potential investors and damaging trade relations. Ethical business practices are not only morally right, also economically prudent. From a utilitarian perspective, labor exploitation fails to maximize overall happiness and well-being. While it might lead to increased profits for businesses in the short term, it often results in significant harm to workers and society as a whole. By prioritizing fair labor practices and investing in the well-being of workers, businesses can contribute to a more stable and prosperous economy for all. Additionally, we must consider the broader socio-economic implications of labor exploitation, including its role in perpetuating cycles of poverty and widening income inequality. By addressing these systemic issues, we can create a more inclusive and equitable society where every individual has the opportunity to thrive.
So I'll be discussing the legal and regulatory framework. While ethical considerations should guide business practices, we must also acknowledge the role of legislation and regulation in combating labor exploitation. The South African government has enacted laws to protect workers' rights, but enforcement remains a challenge. We must advocate for stricter enforcement mechanisms and harsher penalties for businesses that flout labor laws. Moreover, international cooperation is essential to address transitional labor exploitation, as supply chains often span multiple countries with varying regulatory standards. by promoting global partnerships and agreements. We can strengthen accountability and ensure that businesses uphold ethical labor practices across borders. Furthermore, we must empower workers to assert their rights and hold employers accountable for any violations. This requires robust mechanisms for reporting abuse, legal assistance for affected individuals, and measures to protect whistleblowers from retaliation.
As for call to action, in conclusion, the fight against labor exploitation requires collective action. As consumers, we have the power to demand transparency and accountability from businesses. As employees, we can advocate for fair treatment and safe working conditions. And as citizens, we must hold both businesses and governments accountable for upholding human rights. Let us stand together in solidarity and strive for a future where every worker is treated with dignity and respect. In our quest to address the ethical dilemma, let us apply the RIM strategy: recognize, identify, manage, and solve. For recognition, we must recognize the issue of labor exploitation within our business operation and acknowledge the reality of unfair wages, unsafe working conditions, and other forms of mistreatment. In identification, we must identify the stakeholders involved and consider their interests, including the workers, business owners, consumers, government regulators, and the broader community. Understand their interests such as workers' rights, business profitability, and societal well-being. In management, we must implement measures to mitigate the harm caused by labor exploitation, such as improving working conditions, providing fair wages, and ensuring compliance with labor laws and ethical standards. As for the solution, we must develop long-term solutions that address the root causes of labor exploitation, including collaboration between businesses, government agencies, non-profit organizations, and community groups to enact systematic changes promoting ethical labor practices and social justice. Thank you for your attention and commitment to this vital cause. Together, we can build a more just and equitable society for all.
Thank you very much, guys. I think everyone, spoke a whole lot of facts there, guys, and thank you. I think the future of South Africa shall benefit from what we said, and yeah, that will be all, guys.